So what do you do when your gouache palette goes bad on you? I get many questions from gouache painters about how to manage their palette of colors. What do you do to keep the colors fresh? What happens when they dry up? How do you deal with paint that's dry in a tube? How do you prepare your palette? What colors are you using for your palette? What kind of palette do you use? All of these questions I'm going to answer in this video. So if you're a gouache painter and your palette is giving you a lot of hassles, you're going to find an answer in this video. Alright, so I was working in my studio. I wanted to do some gouache painting, took out the palette and was confronted with a whole bunch of problems. So I got stuck into fixing that and recorded all the niggles and tips and suggestions I have about how to manage your gouache palette. Let's take a look. I've got my gouache palette here and I've been doing some cleaning up of the palette and just trying to get things straightened out again after the palette was left alone for too long and paint has dried up and other has gone beyond redemption, and I've got to clean that up as well. So this is what happens when, even with a stay wet palette, it is neglected too long. You can see the lid of the stay wet palette has got a rubber seal, but you can improve on that with some bubble wrap or something like that, which I've used, and that seals it even tighter, which keeps the paint fresh a bit longer, but not forever. So where paint is dried down to just this and there's not much in the palette, I've got to get rid of that. And this over here, I'm not even going to try to resurrect that, so I'll just loosen it and tap it off into the bin. Now I've got a spritzer bottle here with water, and I've put a little bit of colloidal silver solution in here to act as an antibacterial agent. You can use vinegar as well. Anything to stop mold and things like that growing in your palette. And what I find is alizarin crimson is particularly susceptible to mold. So I can also use this just to soften up those trays, and with some tissue papers, them a wipe like that. Obviously I'm going to use these trays for the same color paint if I replace the paint. So what you've got here is a whole series of trays that I fill up with gouache.
On those trays, okay?
Or partly full. I don't have to use all my gouache in the tubes for it, but I put paint in the tray. So here I've got some ultramarine blue and still quite a bit here, and it's not completely lost. So I can just loosen that up, give it a few squirts of water like that, and just leave it to soften up. And as it gets softer, I'll work it with the painting knife to just finely chop it up and mix in the water, and that will fairly quickly resurrect the gouache paint in that tray, and it will be still good enough to use. Okay, all part of the fun and games you have with gouache paint as a medium. And I also go through a lot of tissue paper. Let's clean this out now. Fortunately, gouache is very easy to work with water, and you can clean your fingers off very quickly. It's quite safe as well. Okay, here I've got some red which I have brought back again, and it's now soft and buttery. So when I'm finished painting, I'll close up the palette obviously, but before I do that I will give all the paint a fresh spritz of water, close it all up, and it should be good for a week. Try not to forget it, just add more water, and you can keep your palette going indefinitely that way. Alright, let's bring in a bit more paint. What I've got here, I've got some Royal Talens gouache. I've got some Daniel Smith gouache for white paint, Winsor & Newton. I use mostly Winsor & Newton Designers gouache, but I find the Royal Talens is pretty good, and you get more in a tube, which is very nice. And Daniel Smith also very good quality, but quite expensive. But don't let that stop you. It's worth getting a good quality gouache because there's nothing really in between. It's either good or it's horrific. There's some yellow deep, and this is just yellow. Some cerulean blue, very nice cerulean blue that. I need some of that cool red for alizarin. Okay, that's already starting to get quite stiff in the tube. Let's soften that up. So this is also part of the story of gouache consistency. I want it soft like this, just a bit softer than buttery, but not pouring off either. It's not liquid, but it's not as firm as oil paint either. Here you can see this yellow ochre has just firmed up too much, and so I will also moisten that, break it up. Maybe don't use your favorite painting knife for this, but they are invaluable for so many uses, so you have several, and just keep working it until it's in that soft and creamy state. The cerulean. And this ultramarine has a way to go still before it's right. Getting better. Just let that settle, leave it for a while, it will come right. Yellow lemon, let's give that. Okay, so those are my colors, my main colors, same as with oils. Two blues, at least two blues, ultramarine and cerulean. I've got a bit of turquoise here, which I may use for some water or seascapes. Burnt sienna, a medium red. I've got some orange, which I sometimes use. Just a medium yellow, a deep yellow, yellow ochre, lemon yellow, and of course white, which I will just put into the tray over here and use it as I go along. I don't leave white in a tray, it also just hardens up, and I find with white it's difficult to bring it back to life satisfactorily. Here is a tube of ultramarine. Oops. And it looks pretty much finished, but there's quite a lot of paint in this tube. So what you can do, if you feel intrepid, you can get some of that paint back, cut the bottom and the sides of the tube, peel it back, and you can get all of this paint in here. There's a fair amount. It's not completely dry, it's just too dry to squeeze out. Okay, so that's a little bit of paint saved. Soften that up, and you may wonder, is it worth the trouble? Well, it doesn't take long to get that paint out, and sometimes it's a bit more stuck around the neck of the tube. You can see this alizarin, it's actually, there's a bit in here and there's a lot stuck in there, and it's really getting very hard in the tube, so I wouldn't want all of that to go to waste. But inevitably, maintaining your palette like this involves some waste. We just try to minimize. Like this blue, I've overrun there, so I'm just going to put it in there and use it to make it purple. Right, let's check back in on the yellow ochre, and it's improving. Right, so there's my tray of gouache ready to start painting. Well, I hope you found some answers to any of those gouache palette issues, and this video has been helpful to you. If it has, give it a like, share it with your friends as well. If you're looking to build on your gouache painting, take it further, check out my painting school. I've got gouache for beginners and advanced gouache courses as well. And you can find my school up here with a free painting course to get you started. Now don't forget to subscribe to this channel because there are more videos coming, basically every week, and you don't want to miss the next one. So with that, happy painting and cheers for now.